Hey everybody, how are you? How's everybody? Okay, we got one more panel. I got to be a moderator 3 times today. This is a lot of fun. I'm enjoying this, but this one's a lot of fun for me because the team I'm about to introduce, we just did Rebirth, but I don't want to lose sight of what we accomplished at New 52 as well. And one of the greatest accomplishments for New 52 is just the level of success we had with the Batman book. You know what? We had a lot of fun with that series. And we're about to bring the 2 people on that probably have had the most successful run over the last 4 to 5 years of comics. So without much further ado, I'd like to introduce the writer of All-Star Batman, Mr. Scott Snyder, and artist Snyder and Capullo. Why I like this kind of last for me is that I don't have to say another thing. I just turn it over to these 2 very fine gentlemen, and you can go on and tell your stories. So take it away, guys. Over to you.
How's everybody going? Good? Alright, it's nice to be in Boston. We're back, and it's nice to be with all you fine people, man. So I guess we're just gonna, talk your ear off, take some questions and like that. And is there anything in particular you want to know? Because they didn't really tell us what we should do here. So if you want to first, we could talk about what we did, but you probably, if you're here, you already know what we did. So if you want to just start talking like family, how do you want to run this thing? Like family?
Ice cream.
You want to say ice cream? So about ice cream. Anyway, first, listen, I'll kick it off by just saying, how grateful that both Scott and I are for the way that you've supported us through our, since we kicked off New 52 from issue 1 onto, issue 51. You were there, you had our backs through everything, even in, kind of our daring moments, super heavy and stuff like that. You all stuck in our corner. And, in what we do, we couldn't do what we do without all you people being in our corner and supporting us and buying our books, because if you didn't do that, then, we wouldn't be here talking to you now. We wouldn't have careers. So we're grateful to every one of you. We love every one of you. And, some creators will never lose sight of that, but Brother Scott and I will never ever lose sight of that. And, we sincerely love every one of you for doing that. You help to make our dreams come true and to keep our dreams alive. So bless you all,
Yeah, a special thanks to you guys for such an awesome con. I think this is like my 4th time in a row coming to this one. It's easily one of my favorites. You guys are terrific fans, and it's like keeps it very much about comics. We get to talk to you and actually get to know you guys a little bit. I feel like I see everybody in line, and I'm like, people I recognize for coming up before, and it's just the best feeling. So thanks for making the con so great too, and a place that we just keep coming back to. It's a great city and great con.
So do all of you in the audience know what the boat, because we kind of like split up from each other for a little bit here. And, but it's not new for, he was cheating on me for all the time I was there. So this is the first time I'm having an affair behind his back. But it's not in front of his back. I told him I'm leaving you for another writer for a minute. So, I don't know, I'll just recap in case you don't know. Scott right now, he's again, having other affairs. And he's working, with a lot of fine people on All-Star Batman. Anybody pick up All-Star Batman yet? Does it suck? No, it doesn't suck, right? Because Scott knows what he's doing. That's great, right? So anyway, and you guys know what I'm doing? I'm working with Mark Miller, right? Millar, as I like to say. Yeah. So what I'm working on is called Reborn, and it's going to drop in October, as I said, with Mark Miller. And I still will always say Millar because I just think it sounds cool and it's spelled that way, so it's Mark Millar for me, sorry. But anyway, it's a really cool story, and I'll just give you a little, idea what it's about. This 85-year-old woman, she's fearing death because she doesn't think anything is after this life. You go in the ground, it's all over. And she dies, and she's reborn into this world, and she's like got, a helmet and armor and a cape and a sword and a gun. And she's immediately attacked by these crazy-looking creatures from the sky, and she's immediately rescued by her father, who had deceased years ago, right? And so what it is when we die, we're reborn into this crazy world, and it's a lot like, Road Warrior meets, Lord of the Rings, just crazy stuff. And so all of our pets are there, all of our relatives are there. And if you're a good person in this life, you're a good person in that world. And the opposite, if you're a bad guy, you're in the the dark side of the world there. And so the battle for good and evil continue, and our star, the woman I just mentioned, Bonnie Black, she's prophesied to be their savior who's going to turn the tables on the dark side. So it's just crazy off the wall action and crazy creatures and everything like that. So I think if you pick it up, you're going to have a good time, so that's what I'm working on. Sound good?
He sends me, we still text all the time, like go back and forth.
As we talk
I send him
together.
everything I'm doing with All Star, and he sends me the pages of Reborn, and it looks incredible. I can't wait. So I'm telling you, it's going to be amazing.
Okay, so we're working on separately. How many are looking forward to us reuniting? Anybody?
I pitched him, what was it, like just a couple months ago? Yeah, what I want to do with him, so.
And how do you not love it? It's called DC Metal. And everybody knows. If you just look at my duds. I'm always about that metal. So I'm looking forward to that. And it's, again, just, I think, Scott saw some of the stuff I was doing, and he goes, oh, I can top that. Right? You're doing crazy stuff, I'll give you crazy. So he told me some of the stuff he's doing, which we can't give you the release of it yet, but yeah, just off the wall stuff that you won't expect at all. And it's just gonna hit you blindsided with like a sledgehammer, but you will love it. You're just gonna, oh, please hit me again with that sledgehammer. That's so sweet. So, no, really cool stuff. So, just to let you know, I know a lot of people worry, Scott never gonna get back together or whatever, but we already got that plan. The plan was always in place, even when I said I'm gonna go do something over here. We always knew that we're gonna come back and we're gonna do something, and we're gonna try and do something even bigger and more exciting than we did when we relaunched New 52. I know that's a big statement to make, but we're really gonna swing for the fences as we've done throughout, and we think we've got something that's really gonna just knock your socks off, so I hope you pick that up when it comes out too. Yeah.
I remember when I called him up about it, I was like, picture this. I'm like, it's Batman on a motorcycle with a battle axe.
I'm in!
It's like, this summer, Wonder Magic Metal. And I was like,
and it's like, I was like, is it cold in here? I got very excited.
I think one of the things that's so fun is like, and I hope one of the reasons that you guys have been so supportive of us over the years too is just that we feel like you guys have watched us also become really close. We didn't know each other when we started the 52, and now we're family. Truly, my wife and Jamie and Greg and me and our their sons. So one of the fun things is like when I think of what to do together, it's not really like, oh well, what character haven't we done, or what's the biggest thing? It's like, what would be awesome for him to draw? Like, when I think of him, I think of like rock and roll, badass, and I was like, we can do that. And I was like, and monsters, and I was like, we could do that. So it's one of the fun things is when you get to know the person you're working with really well, trying to make something together that you both feel really passionate about, and you go to work happy because you know what each other enjoys doing, and you push each other to try new things within that sort of story or within whatever project you're doing. But it's at the same time, it's baked into the DNA that it's going to be things that you love to do and they love to do too.
Yeah, so we're excited, and we're pretty sure when it comes out, you guys will be excited too, because it's off the hook, I promise. All right, so there's what we're up to. What are you up to? Anybody want to come up to that mic and ask us anything? You can ask us anything.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Tyler. I've been a longtime Batman fan, and I loved the New 52. My question is, in a world plagued by different iterations of Batman from Adam West to Christian Bale, what keeps your head off the swivel to stay on the path that you want the Dark Knight to go down?
Well, I think, the only way you can approach a character like Batman is to just imagine that you've made him up and you're writing fan fiction, because otherwise it gets so incredibly paralyzing. Because, most of my favorite stories in literature many of them are about Batman, you know, not just comic books. Dark Knight Returns, Year One, and there's so many that Gotham Central that made me want to write when I was younger. So if you think about it in terms of, well, how do I add something to that, or how do I write him in relation to that stuff, you just freeze up immediately. When it comes to making your own thing, the way I approach it is sort of like, I try and think about what I'm struggling with in my life at a particular moment. So for any one of the stories, if you pick one, but for All-Star, for example, right now, it's largely about overcoming personal demons. And some stuff happened privately, and also this moment in time, I feel like right now with the election and all this kind of stuff, you're faced with sort of insurmountable problems or things that seem really challenging. It sort of brings out the best and the worst in you sometimes. And so we'll try and figure out, okay, if I want to write about something that's keeping me up at night, how do I then make a story that will let me get as dark and deep with this character as possible? So it becomes, which villain is going to allow me to channel all of this kind of fear I have and make it even scarier? And so Two-Face saying, well, everybody has a side they don't want to show the world, and we're all really villains, we're not heroes. He fit that perfectly, whereas the Joker, when we were doing Death of the Family, I was going through something where we were about to have our second kid, and I was terrified of being a dad all over again. And so I was like, well, what if I'm terrible at it this time? What if I can't do it? And I was like, well, Batman has a bad family, and does he ever go through that? And I was like, well, who would hear him have these fears and thoughts and be like, I heard you just say you want to do off your whole family, and I'll do that for you, and that would be the Joker. So, you know, what you have to do is sort of plumb your own fears, your own psychology, the things that keep you up at night, and just say, how do I build a story that has this hero protect me or work through these things with the right villain, with a new villain, an old villain, and you just get to that stuff that makes it intensely original. Because once you're dealing with your own anxieties and your own hopes in life for your kids or for yourself, you're not going to be copying anyone, even though there are no new stories, there's no anything, you know, that's completely born out of nowhere, everything echoes something else. You putting your emotions in the story and writing about the stuff that's embarrassing and makes you vulnerable, that will make it original no matter what.
That's great. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Andrew. I'm a huge fan. And we all know you guys are a graphic novel freight train. You know, basically every story arc you've written for Batman in the New 52 was just a phenomenal story arc. My personal favorite is Death of the Family. But I wanted to ask each of you if there was a particular story arc that you've written together, or drawn together, or created together within the New 52 that was the most fun to work on.
Well, for me, I mean, you know, I'm happy to do them all. They all had their high selling points. I mean, there's fantastic stuff in Court of Owls on to the last one. But I'll tell you, you know, Death of the Family, you know, because a lot of you people know I did Spawn for a while.
Woo!
Yeah. So, you know, that's creepy horror kind of stuff. So, you know, I'm very comfortable with that. So Scott's writing this story, and he's apologizing to me, right? Because he's getting into the psyche of the Joker, and it's wearing him out. And he's going, Greg, I'm really sorry, you know, I know this must be so hard on you, you know, to have to draw this kind of stuff. I'm going, man, this is comfortable slipper zone. This is nice and easy. I like this. I got a wide road to drive down. So, yeah, that was a lot of fun for me too. I loved the Death of the Family stuff. But yeah, I truly had a great time because, you know, Scott always writes some cool, interesting scenes into everything. So I've had fun throughout. You know, it's like picking your favorite child. You know what I mean? So I like bits of everything along the way, and the fact that everybody's giving us support again through all those arcs, it's so awesome with you guys. So yeah.
Yeah, for me, it is hard. They all have sort of different special meanings. I think one of the hard things is like on the private side, I look at it almost like a scrapbook a little bit. So they're like, whereas you guys might have favorite moments reading them, a lot of the production of the comics is part of my favorite thing. So like I can look at number 5, where the thing turns, and be like, oh, that's where we first sort of, you know, stuck up for something together that editorial was great about eventually, but at first was a little skeptical of, you know, rightly so.
We had to argue for it.
You know,
I see.
so and then another time it'll be like, oh, you know what? In 0 year, that's when I was going through a rough time privately, and when Greg really helped me out, you know, and was just like.
I'm always
such a
touching him
great
off the
friend.
ledge. That's the one thing I miss about working Millar. He's all very stable and quiet. Whereas, I'm going, I don't have as much purpose anymore.
So I think 0 year was the one that, for me, as much as I love all of them for different reasons, super heavy. There isn't a favorite, but I'd say that one is probably the closest to a favorite for me because it was the time also where FCO just exploded on the page too, where we just sort of, it was the first time I felt like we were really just building Batman from the ground up.
FCO colors the book.
Yeah, sorry, FCO is just incredible, the colorist. But it was sort of like that story. If Endgame is kind of about how Batman has helped me through difficult times and the things that he makes me sort of feel okay to challenge, you know, to keep me up. The 0 year is largely about the fears that I hope he helps my children with, you know, and there's all kinds of things in there that are sort of comic book translations of the stuff that I worry about for them. So, you know, the Red Hood gang is sort of like the random gun violence that happens all the time, and there's superstorms in the book, and terrorism with the Riddler, and all this kind of stuff that I see them worry about in their little ways, you know, as they're starting to understand the world. And I'm hoping that book, in some ways, is a tribute to how Batman can make you brave in the face of the things that really scare you, the same way Frank did that for me when I read Year One, for example, and that stuff, you know, when I was about my oldest son's age.
Excellent, thank you a lot, guys.
Sure, thank you, man.
Hi guys, my name's Jack. One thing that really drew in me to the New 52 Batman run was not just how Batman himself was portrayed, but how Bruce Wayne really tried to become Bruce Wayne, billionaire philanthropist, really trying to bring Gotham City not just out of darkness but into the light. Something that he really continuously failed to do throughout every run, not just your own. For All-Star Batman, are we finally going to start seeing Bruce Wayne maybe get some of these public successes?
All-Star, you know, it's hard. All-Star really is sort of an examination of all the villains. What happened was, as we started to realize we were going to end the run, I did a lot of sort of looking around for myself and wondered if I should take some time off or do a different character. And I realized that I wanted to explore all these villains I hadn't used before, from, you know, Penguin, Catwoman, Ivy, and Freeze, and Two-Face. And so the book doesn't actually have a lot of Bruce, the way Batman was very focused on the duality, I think, of Bruce and Batman as two sides of the same mission. And that was important to us, you know, to sort of reposition Batman in a more modern way, I thought, where he was less of a kind of playboy as Bruce Wayne, just because some part of me felt like maybe, in our version at least, that it was more of a tribute to his parents and their philanthropy and their sort of civic-mindedness to be able to be a hero as Bruce Wayne and Batman, and it was all just one mission, that there was no real Bruce Wayne behind it. It was all just one thing that he's pushing and pushing and pushing to make sure no kid goes through what he went through. So yeah, All-Star is really more sort of just crazy, prismatic kind of looks at the villains, all leading to one big one with Sean Murphy that's kind of like, who's the greatest villain? It's kind of a big surprise. So it's a bit more, every story sort of takes place outside of Gotham. So there's, you know, Two-Face on the road, and then Mr. Freeze is in Alaska, and it's really crazy.
You saved all the easy to draw stuff for other guys.
Yeah, I know. Jock was really happy with Alaska because it's like just white.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of blue and white.
I got to draw 0 here.
It was like all the city, everywhere, it was sunny, there's no shadows. I remember though, the thing about him is like, then remember I gave you I gave him like a couple pages once where I'm like, look, it's in a dark elevator shaft, it's really dark. And then he draws every gear in the elevator because he's so detailed and awesome about it. But I was like, it's dark, dude, it's really dark.
See, the way I was raised in Marvel, you know, how to tell a story, you have to give them the establishing shot that really says, I'm in an elevator shaft. You can cheat after that and make it really dark and everything, but you gotta commit. You gotta give them a good establishing shot. So yeah, that's just the way I'm trained, and I'd love to cheat more, but I'm just, I mean, it's the training, folks, it's the training, which is ingrained.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hello. Could you each name a comic book that you would say influenced your style?
Well, I mean, for me as an artist, I mean, there were so many, you know, because I didn't follow writers. Sorry, right? I followed artists, you know, and so you know, I had my favorite guys, you know, growing up, and you know, yeah, like John Buscema was one of the, you know, my big drawing heroes. So you know, I have like all the Savage Sword of Conans, but he did like almost every single Marvel character that was. But there was tons of guys, including, you know, Father Neil Adams and Frank Miller and you know, just scores of guys. And guys who did work in superhero comics. There was like guys like Mort Drucker and Jack Davis who worked for Mad Magazine that, you know, I thought were amazing. And then there was Chuck Jones who did like, you know, a lot of Bugs Bunny stuff, Tom and Jerry, Grinch Who Stole Christmas. You know, that guy was a master, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of Chuck Jones in me. So I can't like point to any one particular book, you know what I mean? It's just like I admired, you know, a whole bunch of these guys. And they just were, you know, Gil Kane and Gene Colan, and just there were so many. And so, you know, I don't necessarily think that, you know, all of those guys' styles appear in my work, but they all like excited me to a point where that I just go, I want to draw comic books. By the time I was 8 years old, I go, I just want to draw comic books. I knew that's what I want to do. It could have been Mad Magazine. I was like, I want to work for Mad. I want to draw superhero comic books. I just want to do that. So there was a whole bunch of guys. So probably if you were to pick apart, you know, my work, you can see a little bit of, you know, so and so and so and so, because that's like that when you write music or paint pictures or whatever you do, because we all live in the same planet. We're all kind of exposed to a lot of the same stuff. You know what I mean? And so it just goes inside you and gets into your blender and comes out with your own individual, you know, feeling and expression about all those things that you experience, which is the beauty of art. Because you can get a bunch of guys, you know, or girls, and they all, you know, maybe they all have the exact same influences as I have, but when we all were to sit down and maybe go, okay, draw that person sitting in the chair, each is going to look very different, even if we have all the same influence, because that's where the individuality comes in, which is one of the most amazing things about art. It's like magic. So I can't cite a particular book. It just was a bunch of people excited me and made me want to do it.
That's interesting you said Chuck Jones, too. I totally see that when you say
I love
that.
Chuck Jones.
I have the obvious influences. You know, Frank Miller was huge for me, especially growing up in New York. But to cite something kind of, I guess, on the side that got me really interested, I was a huge Calvin and Hobbes fan also. Nice. So, yeah. And one of the things I remember just loving about that made me want to write and draw, because I wanted to be an artist for a long time. I wanted to be a writer-artist, you know, to be like Frank or somebody like that was just my dream, Vignola. And even when I went to college, I had like a portfolio and the whole thing. But it was the fact that the comic could be so funny and fun and also be so whimsical and yet have these really dark and intimate themes, you know, these really sort of psychologically layered questions that were being asked, even when it was hilarious. And it's those things that you find, you know, I didn't understand at the time how kind of transcendent that, or how hard it is to do something that's transcendent that way, that sort of goes beyond its genre to become something that speaks to so many more people. But I have like the big collection, you know, the big hard box of the 3 volumes, and I read them with my older son now, so it's a lot of fun. But that was a big influence on me that I think I don't normally get to cite, because it's more, you know, just comics, straight comics.
Thank you.
So I just went off by saying that I love your work from the beginning of Batman from the New 52 all the way to Rebirth. I've read pretty much almost everything. I'm a huge Batman fan. One of my favorites, though, is definitely The Court of the Owls. What was it like to write and to also draw The Court of the Owls? Because we experienced a lot coming in from Bruce Wayne wanting to rebuild parts of Gotham, all the way to Nightwing and exploring his background with Haley Serkis and how he almost became part of the Owls. What was that like?
It was terrifying, because that was my first Batman gig where I had been doing detective, and writing Dick Grayson was super easy because he was really terrified to be Batman and excited to be Batman, and that's how I felt writing Batman. So it was just like really easy to get along with him. It was like, and also it was funny because all you had to do was throw in a couple like butt shots or bare-chested things, and everyone was crazy happy. And you're always like, I would always just be like, because you get these emails that are like, more butt shots, please. This is a very serious story. You know, and by the end, I was well as he fights. You know, he's it's like just the angle is just sort of from his butt. But anyway, so I didn't realize your bread and butter.
I never saw any of those.
No, I tried it with Bruce. Then we started writing because then we got into this like who's sexier thing with Grayson, which we would never win.
The only time I really got it was when we gave Bruce the beard.
Yeah, then
Because he was crying about that, Nightwing, and dude, all the girls, he's so sexy, and we gotta compete, give him a beard.
then we did get them. Yeah, then we did. We got more.
He goes, let's do this racy scene with he's in the shower naked, So he was going for it. I'll just tell you something too, a little funny, it's a side story about how quirky Scott is, okay? And let me back up. Okay, so what do we? I know. So for all the scripts I've ever gotten from Scott, it would always include images, but whatever application I used to read the scripts, none of the images ever came through, and this went on for years. Now you would think
I didn't know.
Right. So but you would think if you were Scott Snyder, because I sent him all the images, and nothing ever comes back. Anywhere remotely, like the images I sent, he would probably stop sending images. But through all the years, he never ever stopped sending the images, And so, but the point that I was coming to is the most bizarre thing. Once I got to see the images. Oh, by the way, one I opened up recently, there was a picture of you actually making a face. It was during a Joker story, and you had this bizarre, crazy face.
Right.
I just saw that like last week.
Pictures
And I'm going, wow, the guy's even sending me a facial expression. But the best was, when we said we're going to give Bruce a beard, he sent me a picture of a guy with a beard. And I'm going, oh, you're kidding me, right? Like, yeah, I have no concept of what a beard might look like, right? And I'm going, so all I could see is like, Scott, who's got a family, he's got little kids, he could be spending his time with the family, bouncing the kids in the knee, watching TV, playing with toys, kissing the wife. He's up there going, Scott, you come down for dinner? Yeah, hang on, honey. I just gotta Google a picture of a beard.
Well, it could be like a ZZ Top beard.
Not really what would come to my mind, But I guess he was so, in case he comes back with a ZZ Top beard. But we'll show him just an average non-mental patient beard.
I remember that. I really
Yeah.
No, it was really scary, honestly, because it was the first time writing Bruce, and when I signed on to do it, we didn't know we were going to do the 52 at that point. So when I found out it was going to be Batman #1, that was doubly scary, And I remember just saying to my wife, I don't know if I can do it,
It was terrifying for me as well, yeah.
And then honestly, the thing was, when I started to see his art for it, when you first drew the Talons, that's when it was, where I was like, this is really going to be fun. And it came to life, when I saw it. His art is also so three-dimensional and immersively, I think, robust in terms of the way it looks like it's being seen from every angle. There's nothing flat about the way you draw the figure or anything. So it becomes immediately very, it has girth and everything. And so you see it and it's real, and you're like, oh, I can do this, So it was a huge help. It really was when I saw his first sketches that I was like, just focus on that. Focus on, you're building a world that it's you guys, just making something together. And, then it became really fun once we got past the first issue. The first issue was really scary. I must have done, like 15 drafts of the first issue. I didn't know. I was so paralyzed by nervousness with it.
And I'm saying, I was very scared, when they told me what they wanted me to do, they go, wanted me to do Batman, that'd be great, I took the job. And then when it sunk in that I was relaunching Batman, issue 1, I wasn't coming out in issue 700, then it was like pressure. Because, Batman's so iconic and everybody loves him, and so, oh my God, you don't want to make Batman suck because everybody will kill you. And, I don't want to die yet, so I was like, nervous, And, but once you get into it, the nerves settle and your work head gets in. And you just do what you do. And so, Scott was handing me all these great scripts, and I just on the life as best I can, because as an artist, I really, really involve myself in the story. I mean, if you were to watch me read a script from Scott or somebody, I'm one minute I'm looking happy, next minute I'm looking sad, next minute I'm looking angry, because I'm very much into it. And so when I'm getting all these great scripts, and in issue 5, I'm going mad with Batman, because you sort of, to be a really successful, artist, you have to kind of be an actor, and so you have to feel the parts that you're portraying on the paper. You have to immerse yourself. You have to become every character that you're drawing. You have to be that character at that moment. And so that's what it was. And so when we were descending into madness, you know, I'm in it. And that's another reason why I don't like people coming into my house, my wife or anybody coming into my house while I'm working, because here's me, you know, when they come in. Yes? What do you want? I tried to, like, you can tell I don't want to answer you, right? So I want you to go away. I want a conversation.
That's like when I text you when you're working too.
Okay. Okay, got it. And because I got to get back in now, you know what I mean? Because I was already underwater, and now I got to go above water and go yes, and now I have to immerse myself in it. So I don't like to do that. I like to stay in my zone. But yeah, and true, like Scott said, I'm like that when you text him. Either I ignore him or I'll respond with a picture, you know, emoticon, you know, emoji, you know, because you know he's wordy, you know, his texts are like this, and I'll send back like a couple emojis. Yes, you know, there's my response. So words and pictures.
I'm not sure how to take them. It's always like,
It drives me crazy, you know.
Whatever.
Dude, you're crazy. You drive me crazy.
I do.
That happened long before you met me.
Well, it matters. Oh, you know what was funny is like, the other thing I'd say, and not just to speak to the Court of Owls, but every story that we did, at a certain point what you realize is like, one of the reasons I love working with him, and I'll work with him on anything, anywhere, you know, or wherever he wants to go. If he ever says, you know, fire up the car, I'm there. Whatever project it is, wherever it is that he makes me write better, because I know what he's capable of as an artist, and it makes my imagination expand all the time. And what you do is you wind up, and everybody I work with, you know, all the people that I like working with, and many of them are here, you know, Rafa and Sean Murphy, do that, you know, to in different ways. And it's what you respond to, you know, as a creator. And the thing that's so great about it is like, on some level, when it makes you, all you care about is writing something that they love, and that they're gonna do something that makes you then up your game when you do the lettering pass on it. So I would always bug him, I still do, like all the time. If I send him anything, it matters to me more than anybody in the world that he loves it. I don't care if everybody else says, the script's really great, I love the script. Until I hear that he loves it, it doesn't matter, you know what I mean, if he's drawing it. So that's why, I would bug him forever, you remember? It'd be like, cause he'd be like, it's good. And I'm like,
Just good or?
no.
Really like it?
Yeah, it was never okay. Or an emoticon.
All right, I say great.
Like,
You didn't use all capitals, Greg. Is it really correct? All capitals, 17,000 exclamation points.
that's good.
You like that?
Yes. My wife always says, it's like,
Your yes was just small caps, Greg.
I have very supportive parents, which is embarrassing for a writer. My wife is always like, they spoiled me, because they're always like, this is the most amazing story ever. And I'm like, thanks, Mom.
You can't trust your friends and your family. They will love everything you do.
My mom's really objective. And so yeah, I have a relatively thick skin at this point when it comes to response to the stuff that I do, I think, in some ways. Or at least I can block out.
I don't know, I just got a recent text.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah. Okay, maybe not the thickest skin, but I can get through. I can get through it if I know the people that I really care about see what I'm going for and believe in it too. You know what I mean? That's the only thing that pulls you through all of the craziness.
Well, thank you guys.
Sure thing.
There's one question. There was like 10 questions.
Hi, I'm Greg.
I love you.
Yeah. Your Endgame Joker design is easily my favorite Joker.
Thank
I
you.
love what you did with the duality between issue 4 and issue 9, those covers. That would be a great story. But my main question is for Scott. What would the question, a man who is, you know, about truth at any cost, say to Two-Face's offer?
Oh, you mean like what would Batman say?
No, what would the character question?
Oh, the question.
Who's about truth at any cost, say to what Two-Face said.
Oh, I don't know, man. I haven't thought about the question in forever. I was like, back when I was doing Swamp Thing, I had a whole idea about using the question, but I don't know. I mean, I think the thing that I love about the way that he wouldn't be happy about it. I think the thing that I like about the Two-Face that's so scary is that he never lies in this arc. That's what he says in the second issue. He's like, you might hate me, but he he never even bends the truth. He tells you the things that you don't want to hear that are true about yourself.
That sounds like me. My wife's always yelling at me, but you could be a little less truthful.
Our version has like a goatee, like this. Two-face. But he's scary because he sees the part of yourself that you don't want to admit exists and says it's there and that's the real part. And so he is about truth in that way. So I don't see him as about being a liar. I think that's what's scary about him, is that he tells Batman the things in this arc that he really doesn't want to hear.
Yeah. So, yeah, like, would question be like, yes, would you completely agree because he would go to any length to have that truth?
Maybe. I mean, it's hard because I don't think he'd go to this like the length where I don't think he'd go like this, because Two-Face has these plans that I think would really like he burned a lot of the city with acid rain and stuff. So he's, I think that's maybe a little too far length. But no, I think in concept though, being a warrior for the truth that way is something that's parallel.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Howdy, my name is Nathan. I'm from Austin, Texas. I'm going to admit I was kind of a late draw to your series, but I really enjoyed it when I was. And one of the things that me and a buddy of mine who couldn't make it here today discussed and found most interesting about your series was when Batman stopped being Bruce Wayne and Batman started being Jim Gordon. And this was really captivating to me because I was I understood the depth of the Batman universe, and I wanted to know what it was like to have to create a Batman that was another part of that universe, that was not Bruce, that was just, what was it like to create that new Batman, and how was it like to command that project both artistically and in writing?
Scott pitched that story to me, asked me what I thought about it. I thought it was brilliant, because
Capitals.
and smiley face emojis.
Yeah.
But I just said, that's like the perfect candidate, because if we're going to do away with Bruce, so in the end of Endgame, you got to have somebody take up the cowl, and I don't think there was a better choice. I mean, maybe if Alfred was younger, but still, and I loved it because Gordon's a detective, Batman's a detective, and they have a close relationship, but what they say about walk a mile in another man's shoes, so I go, now that Gordon actually walked a mile in Batman's shoes, it just brings this whole other level to their relationship, going forward from that. So from the moment he mentioned it, I just go, man, and I love Gordon as a character, especially the mustache, which I didn't get to draw too much because he had to shave it, but whatever. I love Gordon. So I just thought it was a brilliant story idea, and so I was on board from day one. So it was like Mr. Scott too.
It was like the mustache was going to be the villain at the end, behind all of it. It was really, it's scary because I feel like, there were a couple times when I knew we were going to get criticism or that might cause fan backlash. When we did 0 Year, when it was announced that we were doing 0 Year, I was braced for it, where I knew saying, hey, we're doing a year-long origin story would not get the best fan response at first. But I really believed in it for the reasons I said earlier. I knew that it was something that I thought would be very personal, and also I knew it was going to be like a post-apocalyptic, overgrown, crazy, savage city, and I thought Batman with like a motorcycle and a bow and arrow would be so wildly different as an origin thing that it would work. And then similarly, with the Gordon one, what I wanted was for our last arc. Oh, that's it?
That's it.
Wow. Oh my God, that flew by. With the Gordon arc, what it really was I knew it was going to be our last arc, and I wanted to do a story that was largely about what Batman might mean to the real. Why do we care about him in the real world where he doesn't do anything? Meaning, Batman isn't going to solve problems about, class difference or institutionalized racism or anything, terrorism, whatever. So what's the big deal? And it can't just be escapism. Why do we care about Batman? Why do kids from like the inner city and from the country and all over the place wear Batman t-shirts? And so I knew that the best way to do that would be to have somebody try to make Batman real, and that's what Jim Gordon does. And at the end when he says, what I realized about him is he's not real, but he is real in this other way. And so it was really scary because I knew that it would get a kind of initial response that would be sort of what? But I also knew it was a story that hadn't been done and was also really personal to me. Again, it was about sort of what I hope in some ways he has the potential, as somebody who's written him for the last 5 years, what I think he has the potential to mean to people, and how that he actually does affect the world, even though he's a fictional character.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Hi. I just want to start off by saying I think Mr. Bloom is one of the coolest villains
Oh,
ever.
thanks.
My question is, if you could just give a little bit of your backgrounds and kind of how you started, specifically on the writer end. I'm a writer, but I can barely draw a stick figure. So just kind of advice on how to break in specifically as a writer, and also kind of the relationship between a writer and an artist.
Yeah, well, I figured out I wanted to be a writer-artist. Like, I wanted to be a comic book writer when I was about, I don't know, 11 or 12. I started to get really into it. And then I went to, when I fell back really into prose and realized I wasn't good enough at art, I majored in it in college, and then afterwards I took odd jobs, worked at Disney World, all these kind of weird ones to get experience, like, in life. I was Eeyore and Pluto. It was fun. It was crazy. But anyway, and then I went to graduate school for writing, and so I was really focused on prose, and my chance to write comics really came out of nowhere, where I had written a couple stories that had supernatural elements, and a couple comic book editors found me and invited me to pitch. And what I realized really quickly was that it was my childhood love, and I just fell back in love with it to the degree that I never looked back at prose, even though I had a career going in prose at the time. Because the thing I love, the two things I love were, one, it's this hugely imaginative world. Just your ideas can be even almost bigger in some ways than in prose, at least in some manner. And the other thing is that the bigger thing is that it's collaborative, and prose is so lonely. And it was great. I got to work with these people that bring stuff to life and enhance it and make it better than I ever could. And now it's funny because I'm doing a little bit of prose. The book I'm doing, After Death, is largely prose with Jeff Lemire. I'm always like, oh yeah, it's dark and stormy, Jeff, da-da-da. And then I'm like, oh wait, I have to actually make it dark and stormy with my words. And that's hard. So yeah, you go back to it. But that's how I got into it. And honestly, the greatest joy of comics is the collaborative aspect. And when you find someone who just inspires you and makes you want to go to work every day and see what they do with your stuff, and you get to stand on their shoulders that way, it's the best feeling.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Nick. Big fan of all your work. So my question is for the both of you. When you're creating your stories and crafting your artwork, does it ever like hit you that what you're producing is kind of like, I guess, like the modern day like mythological stories of the past, where these might be the stories that like inspire people and even, you know, the incoming generations, and they might be like the morals that like dictate their lives? And does that, when you're creating your work, does that ever like hit you, and do you feel like a responsibility to push that forward, or you just kind of do too much?
I don't, you know, I might be answering for Scott, but I don't think you have the time to contemplate those things, you know. It would impede your work. I mean, you have a job to do. You write a story and you draw it to the best of your ability to make it the best you think it could be, and the best that you're able to make it, and that's as far as it goes. You know, I think the public is the one who decides, you know, what you just said. You don't have control over that, and if you try and control public reaction, you're doomed, because you'll never please everybody. Some people love it, some people hate it, some people be indifferent, and you just can't even think like that. You just got to do your job, hope for the best, and if it comes back roses, fantastic. If not, you took your best shot, and that's pretty much everything in life, you know. So you just do your due to the best of your ability, try and make the world a better place in the way that you can, and leave the rest to everybody else. You know, so.
Thank you.
Sure.
I totally agree with that. I do. At the moment I start thinking that way, I just get way too anxious.
And in case you don't notice the nuance of our Joker here, he's the burnt up Joker,
Yeah,
made it
I love
inside the Batcave, which I pointed out to Scott when we were coming in. I go, he's even got the damage. It's cool. How you doing?
My name is Ryan, and first of all, I just got to thank both of you because I had totally written off and given up on comic books probably in my 20s. I'm just not impressed by them. And somebody gave me Death of the Family, and I read it, and like the only thing that it reminded me of is, have you ever seen those illustrations of Dante's Inferno?
Yeah.
Like with it, it reminded me that I was like, I've never seen anything or read anything like this, and I filled up probably several long boxes since then, just got on it completely because of the to you. My question is, at the end of Endgame, or when Batman and the Joker are fighting, they die together in the cave. Is the pool of blood between them intentionally heart-shaped?
Yes. Those are the fun things I get to do, work with Scott, because, he gives me a lot of room to play. And I just figure they kind of have sort of a love affair, the two of them. They're like a yin-yang relationship, and they kind of have this duality, and they coexist, like that, And Scott writes in that way, that they have this, at least in the Joker's mind, a loving relationship. And so definitely, and to have it being a broken heart, was very much intentional, trying to, again, anything that Scott gives me, I try and really pull out the essence of his writing and to, do artistic things that, elevate that, And so definitely the heart and the pool, thank you for realizing and noticing, was intentional to try and, bring another wrinkle or level to what I think he feels about his characters that he's writing.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me with the Joker and Batman is, it is sort of, it's like an abstract kind of love affair that I love writing, because Joker thinks of himself as somebody who is trying to demonstrate to you that everything you do in your life, our version of him at least, and this is my greatest fear, that everything you do really amounts to nothing, and that it's all sort of, to think that your life has meaning and that the accumulation of all the things that you do matters in any way, really, in the long run. He would laugh at you, and that's the big joke. And Batman is a character who is forged out of random, meaningless violence, and his parents are shot almost over nothing. And he turns his life into this engine of meaning, and the whole purpose of it is to make sure that everyone has their life matter. He wants you to go out there and be the hero and affect the world and do good things. And so what Joker sees is he sees them as these two halves, where he says, you love me and I love you because each of us argues the essential and sort of core and primal sides of one conflict, and it's the only conflict that matters in Joker's mind. So it's not like a prosaic love affair. It's more of the kind of thing where, like Greg said, they exist in this broken heart all the time in my mind, because it's more of Joker says we can't. I make the counter side of the argument that you struggle against all the time. That your mortality, and Endgame is about Joker saying your mortality is that. You don't like to look at it, but when I'm going to make you look at it, because I'm immortal, and when you look at it, you see how small you are, I'm going to wipe you away, you're going to be nothing. And then what Batman says to him is the opposite. He says, my mortality is my strength, because I go down, the whole point of me is that I'm a tragedy. I go down fighting and show people that if I were immortal, I wouldn't be inspirational to anybody. The fact that I only have this one life, I only have these hands and this body, and it's aging and it's going, but I'm going to fight every breath I have to make the world a better place. That's what gives me meaning as a superhero. And that's what makes me immortal, ironically, paradoxically. So that's why they sort of exist in this kind of strange form of love that's almost this kind of magnetic circle there, and repelling and attracting each other all the time. Yeah, and he did the moths too.
Thank you so much.
Sure thing. Always do stay chatting all night long.
Yeah,
They told us,
it's
they
over.
go, it's 5 minutes, and so we have to go now. But thanks for coming and filling up the room and keeping us company.
Yeah, come find us too. We're in Valley all weekend.
Sure.